Hello everyone, my name is Mary Muse here. Hope you're having a great day today. Today's Friday for me, so I'm feeling pretty good. Today I want to talk to you about trigger warning, advanced trigger warning. I'm talking about self-harm, okay? Why? Why not? I've done, I think, 17 videos and I haven't covered this one yet. Mind blown. Also, I was just recently hospitalized this last weekend because my psych meds got kind of a little loopy-doopy, and I was not myself, and I ended up self-harming on myself, and the hospital staff there was determined to label me as a suicide attempt. And I kept telling them, no, do you not know anything about self-harm? And they were looking at me like, no, look at what you did to yourself. You were obviously trying to end your life. And I was telling them, no, I was trying to save my life. And they couldn't grasp that. And I know a lot of other people can't grasp that either. So I wanted to be able to open up the dialogue, let you use me as a scapegoat. The role of the context of the information I'm going to be giving to you is going to be about breaking the myths, some statistics about self-harm or self-injury or self-mutilation, and then some helpful tips for trying to get out of that vicious cycle. And then, hey, mom, dad, brother, sister, caregiver, boyfriend, girlfriend, the ones who do not self-harm, I'm going to give you some tips on how to react when you find us in a position of behaving. And that's another thing. I am not going to be using the words or the verbs that people use to self-harm against themselves, for just out of respect for not triggering people any more than this possibly could be. And also, people do countless different ways of self-harming. I do countless ways of self-harming, and so just by using one stereotyped phrase, it's not going to be directing the entire audience. So, and I'm also going to be doing this in a very chipper and upbeat and happy mood, because you know what? There is no shame in this, all right? It's a coping strategy. There's no shame. There's nothing wrong with it. There's obviously an underlying problem that needs to be addressed, but there is no shame or guilt, okay? As I just said, I just did my own self-harming at the hospital, prior to the hospital, for the second time in 10 years now. I've been doing really good about this, and I have grace for myself. I'm okay with that. But end of my rant. Let's get on with the program here, okay? All right. Self-injury behaviors are any behaviors that a person does with the purpose of hurting oneself. Some people may self-injure, also known as self-harm, self-mutilate, whatever term you want to use, only once, while most will engage in self-harm behaviors multiple times. And how to stop self-harm once you start, that can be a real uphill battle. Real uphill battle. And so now let's go into some myth busters here, because I'm just gonna be point blank and raw with you guys. This pisses me off. I have 4 myths here that I want to blow out of the waters. The first one, the biggest myths. That's a hard one. The biggest myths about self-injury stem from misinformation. It is very easy to misunderstand self-injury if you do not suffer what the problem is yourself, as is with most things in life. Even many self-injurers don't understand exactly why they behave as such or engage in other types of self-harm. When I was 16 and I first did my first self-harming, I remember the day vividly. I thought I created this whole concept up on my own. I never saw it in the media. I never had friends at that point who had done that. I thought that I had created this great cure to my problems. So a lot of the times we don't even understand why we do it ourselves. So myth number 1, self-injury is not a series of failed suicide attempts. Let me repeat that because that is so big. Self-injury is not a series of failed suicide attempts. This is one of the biggest self-injury myths. Those who self-injure do more to cope than as a way out or as a way of dying. It is true that many self-injurers contemplate suicide as an extreme option. However, self-injury is not done with the intent of killing oneself. Myth number 2, self-injury is not pure attention seeking. While it may be right that those who do self-injure need attention, as in therapeutic attention, calling attention to oneself is not usually one of the reasons why people self-injure. Those who do self-injure usually do so in secretive ways that even those very close to them have no idea of their problem, which is why their reactions to self-injury disclosure or discovery is one of shock and dismay. Interpreting self-injury as attention-seeking can only make things worse for the self-injurer. Myth number 3. Some self-injury is minor. Yeah, you know, it was just a little behavior, so it's not that big of a deal. Wrong. Physically minor self-injury does not mean that it is not serious. The severity of a person's feelings and reasons behind self-harm cannot be determined by the injury to one's body. They're not directly related, okay? And then finally, myth number 4, self-injuries, we're not crazy, okay? Self-injury does not always accompany another psychiatric disorder. Self-injury can be a problem all on its own and may be regarded by those who have very limited or no experience with self-mutilation to be a sign of craziness. To other people, it may be crazy. To a self-injurer, it is the way of life. It is important to realize that suicidal ideation is rarely a cause of self-injury. The goal of self-harm is to physically injure the self and not to die. The better way to look at the cause of self-injury would be to be seen as an emotional distress, and if this distress is not alleviated, it can result in suicidal behavior. Okay? So we have some environmental causes. We have I'm listing like a bunch of possible causes for why self-injury happens. Environmental causes, as the main reason for self-injury, relates to stress. One of the main environmental components of self-harm is the presence of trauma or stress. This may be past trauma, such as sexual assault, or it could be current stress, such as the pressure to succeed. One of the stresses known to create a risk for self-harm is sexual orientation. Those in a sexual minority group are more likely to self-injure. Specifically, females who identify themselves as bisexual are higher at risk for self-mutilation. So, I'm right there with you guys, okay? And psychological reasons for self-mutilation. There are various psychological reasons for self-mutilation, but the overwhelming factor is the presence of unmanaged anxiety. This anxiety, be it from trauma, stress, or pressure, is so great that the person finds they can't deal with it. The self-injury, then, is a way of releasing or dealing with this chronic anxiety. Self-harm can be a coping mechanism, albeit a negative one. Self-injury is also commonly used to deal with overwhelming sadness or emotional numbness or disassociation. I've disassociated in the past, and for me, it made me feel again. It made me feel like I had life again. I mean, it was painful, but I could feel again, and that was better than feeling the void of emptiness. And for the other reason that was just mentioned, releasing stress and releasing pent-up anxiety. For me, when I would behave, I would feel like I was taking a shower and I was just washing off all the self-loathing and all the hatred and all of the disgust for myself and all of the depression, and it was just this washing and cleansing of the self-harm. Okay, just to try and give you some understanding as to how I don't want to say how we, but how specifically I feel when I have self-harmed in the past. The presence of other psychological disorders can also be an indirect cause for self-injury. While a disorder does not specifically cause the behavior, those with certain mental health disorders are higher at risk, such as addiction disorders, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety. I'm the poster child, you guys. Some other causes of self-injury include desires to experience a feeling in the face of numbness, like how I just described with disassociation, control the body and mind, express feelings or needs, distract from other problems, create visible and noticeable wounds, purify oneself, again, like how I was saying, like washing it off, to reenact trauma in order to resolve it, which that's, again, Psychology 101, and protecting others from emotional pain. So let me give you some stats on self-harm. Each year, 1 in 5 females and 1 in 7 males engages in self-injury. 90% of people who engage in self-harm begin during their teens or pre-adolescent years. I was 16, I was a late bloomer. Nearly 50% of those who engage in self-injury activities have been sexually abused. Females comprise 60% of those who engage in self-injurious behavior. About 50% of those who engage in self-mutilation begin at around 14 and carry it on until their 20s. Many of those who self-injure report learning how to do so from friends or from the media or other outlets. Approximately 2 million cases are reported annually in the U.S. 2 million. While these self-harm statistics form reliable sources, truly accurate information of self-mutilation is difficult to come by because the majority of participants hide their behaviors. Their behaviors may never come to the attention of medical professionals or other social services. Self-injurious behavior used to be strictly assumed with symptoms. Let me start that right over again. Self-injurious behavior used to be strictly assumed with symptoms of borderline personality disorder, but now it's known to be associated with eating disorders, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, conduct and oppositional disorders. Many people go on to years through, though, because they find it. Many people go on for years, though, because they find it so difficult to stop self-harm. But it is possible to change your self-harm behaviors. It is possible to stop self-injury. To stop self-mutilation, though, many things need to change, include, and I'm going to address these 3 factors, but I'm going to just tell you what they are right now. The environment, you need to change the environment. A support system, you need to create one of those. And your thought patterns. You need to change your thought patterns. So let me go through those individually in just a second. It's also important to note that about self-harm alternatives, which I will give you a list of them, and to gain some insight into why self-harm or what triggers you and your self-injury actions. So, changing the environment. The environment is part of what causes or allows for self-harm, and changing it can help stop self-injury. The first step is analyzing. Like, just look at your surroundings. And this is easier to do when you're not in like a self-harm mantra, I guess you want to say, when you're in a neutral zone. But you can still do it in that self-harm mantra. But anyway, a couple of example of questions that you want to ask when you're analyzing your environment are: do you see self-injury? Do you do self-injury at a specific time of day? Do you do self-harm in a specific place? Do you use particular tools to self-mutilate? Do you have a ritual around your self-harm? Knowing the answers to these questions can help you change those aspects of your environment that contribute to your self-harm behaviors. Changing the environment can be done once the urge to self-harm strikes, but it's easier to do before the urge comes, like I just said. For example, to keep your environment from triggering you, you can keep yourself busy at the time of day that you are likely to self-harm. Don't be alone during those times. Reach out, have a study buddy, invite someone over for tea. Stay away from any place where you typically self-injure. So if you have a particular room in your house or like a particular park that you go to, stay away from there. Throw away any tools that you use to self-mutilate. And if you can't throw them away, at least make them as inaccessible as possible, okay? Stop yourself from committing self-harm rituals by adding or removing steps from them. So say, if I usually do A, B, and C, say, no, first in order to get to A, B, and C, I need to first do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can do A, B, and C. Then I give myself permission in a sense. And you add more steps and more steps and more steps, and eventually it helps to dissolve the craving. All right. Getting support and getting help. Self-injury help and support can come from professional sources such as self-harm treatment centers, programs, or psychotherapists, or it can come from friends or family or members or others. The important thing is that you have supportive people around you who you can turn to for help when you need it. If you feel the urge to self-harm, call one of these supporters and have them talk or sit with you. This can be one of the easiest ways to stop self-harm. Changing your thoughts and understanding yourself. Okay, this is the third point. Changing the way you think is no easy task, that's for sure. However, changing some of the negative thoughts that lead to self-injury is possible and important. Just like with the environment, first it's important to analyze. Some questions to think about might be, how accurate are my thoughts surrounding self-harm? Are my negative thoughts reasonable? What are my thoughts right before I self-harm? Handling those thoughts may be tricky, but there are techniques used to stop and alter negative thoughts or self-harm. Challenge the negative thoughts. You'll likely find that many of them aren't true, but only true at the time. If you find yourself in a spiral or a negative thought, think or even shout, "Stop!" and change your thought or to something else. And then reframe your thoughts. For example, instead of thinking, "God damn, I am so dumb for hurting myself," think, "I did what I needed to do to take care of myself. I will do better next time." Like how I was talking about at the beginning of this video. I gave myself grace, I gave myself understanding, and it's over. It's done. These self-harm thought-altering techniques may take a lot of practice to work. A therapist can help you with more self-harm stopping techniques. Ultimately, you want to try and figure out what is causing your desire to self-injure. If you can get to the root of that problem, you can find alternative methods to absolve the pain and ways to avoid getting into similar situations in the future. Such type of introspective questions are, do you feel angry, frustrated, or anxious? If so, hey, go to violence. Violence is the key as long as you're not directed at a living thing or something or a thing of value. As an alternative to self-harm, you can rip up or punch a pillow, scream your lungs off, jump up and down, or cut up a soda bottle or some other miscellaneous irrelevant item. Break something that you won't regret breaking, like sticks, mark or tear up pictures of yourself. It's better than doing it to the real thing. What I like to do is take those old school yellow page books and just stab the bloody hell out of them. What good are they for now anyways, right? Another thing for that, positivity can also be good. You can use that energy to clean your room or your house, get some exercise, dance, walk, jog, run, until you're exhausted. Wear off that energy. Play a sport, go swimming, do whatever it takes. Another question you can ask yourself, do you feel depressed, down, sad, generally unhappy? Wash your problems away. Pamper yourself with a nice bubble bath luxurious shower. Try massaging body lotion into your arms and legs on the places that you'd like to cut. And treat yourself like the kings and queens that you are. Relaxing is the best way to alleviate the feelings of unhappiness. You can curl up in bed with a book and escape to an alternative reality, or light some incense and just kick back and listen to some calming music. Call a friend and chit chat about nothing in particular. Eat yummy snacks and spend the evening watching TV, Game of Thrones, or surfing the web. Another question you can ask yourself: do you feel unreal, inhuman, alone? Hurt yourself in a relatively harmless way, like holding ice or rubbing ice on the spot that you would normally cut or burn. Chew a hot pepper. Whew. Snap your wrist with rubber band. That was my non-smoking habit that cured me. Another good alternative to self-harm is to take a cold bath, ice cold bath. Jump around, stomp your feet on the ground, focus on something like breathing or your heartbeat. Notice the way your body feels and moves. Do you need focus? Working on something is a good way to focus on your mental and physical energy. Do something on the computer. You can also pursue any other hobby that that you may have that is fulfilling and requires concentration. Attentively eat a snack. Weigh it in your hand. Be mindful about it. Look at it. Look at the little crevices in it. Look at the different textures. Is it like a Twix bar where there's like a cookie and the caramel and the chocolate? Is it a raisin with all sorts of dimples and bumps in it? How much does it weigh? Really just analyze and put detail into your mind as to what the heck it is that you're about to eat. Choose a random object and list 30 different reasons for its use in an alternative way. Okay? I challenge you with that. Pick a subject and research it on the web. This is what I do all the time, I swear. This can get your mind going and give you a new project to work on. Do you need to see blood, pick scabs, or scars? I mean, do you need just the bare bones of self-harm? Draw on your wrist with a red felt pen. I've also heard of something called the butterfly effect, where you draw butterflies where you originally wanted to cut, and as long as that butterfly is there, you can't cut that butterfly or else you'll kill that butterfly. And when it fades away, like after shower, then you need to draw another one, okay? Tattoo yourself with henna. After you've left it on overnight, you can actually pick it off as you would scabs, and it leaves an orange-red mark behind. Just generalized alternatives to self-harm: punching a pillow or a punching bag, squeezing ice cubes, putting your face in a bowl of ice water. Oh, trust me, that one will wake you up. Eating a chili or other spicy food, taking a very cold shower, drawing on your body instead of cutting it, strenuous and exercise. You're trying to just pretty much shock your body out of this mindset. Of course, the best self-harm alternative is likely to reach out and talk to someone about how you're feeling. Okay? So now, mother, father, sister, brother, lover, friend, school teacher, anyone who is not a self-harmer, and you've come upon someone who's self-harmed, these are the steps to how to respond to such a situation, okay? People self-injure to cope with internal emotions, to stop bad feelings, to relieve emotional numbness, to punish themselves, obtain a sense of belonging, and many, many, many other reasons. Here are some guidelines about approaching someone who engages in self-injury. Remain calm and caring, okay? Accept him or her even if you disagree with the behavior that they're partaking of. Note that this represents a way of dealing with emotional pain. Listen with compassion. Avoid panic and overreaction. Don't get that deer-eyed in the face look. The next one. Do not show shock or revulsion of what they've done. Do not allow him or her to recount the self-injury experience in detail, as it may trigger yet another session. Do get, yeah, here the big one, do get appropriate help for him or her from a qualified mental health professional. The best way to help is to stay informed about self-injury statistics and facts. The more you know about the causes of self-injury, motivations, and appropriate responses, the more effective you'll be when dealing with someone who engages in this activity. Okay? So that sums up today's lesson. And I would just like to throw in a little selfish sidebar here. It is now 8:32 p.m. and if you've watched my TMS videos, and if you saw the first one, my 8:30 TMS video, I was almost catatonic, almost disassociated, so zonked out, and that was how I was every single night. Okay? And now look at me. I'm chipper, I'm happy, I'm lively, I'm bounds of energy, but I'm not manic. And this is compliments of TMS, transcranial magnetic therapy. And yeah, so if you want to check those videos out on my channel, I really recommend you do, because this has been, I've been all around the block and back on antidepressant therapies, medications, everything, and TMS is the one that worked the best for me. So this is just a tribute to that right here. I hope that this video helps anyone. Maybe it gives them comfort, maybe it gives them understanding, maybe it makes them feel like they're not alone in this situation. And I hope that people who are not self-injurers, that it gives you a little bit more compassion and understanding for what we go through and how our minds think. So, until next time, you guys. Mwah!